any of the DNC?
I did not. I saw highlights of it
Oh,
on the world news, and of course reading articles about it, but no, I didn't get to watch it. I was pleasantly surprised to hear about the party they had with the music
oh,
and whatnot. That sounded pretty cool. But and of course the speeches, President Obama, First Lady Michelle Obama, um Governor Walls, and then of course his the touching moment with his son that just went viral. It was awesome, and then of course um, um, the soon to be president of the United States herself giving an
hmm.
awesome speech. So I didn't get to watch it, but I did hear a lot of the highlights and see, photos and stuff like that. So it sounds like from what I was able to glean that it was an awesome conference.
It was, and the difference or the contrast couldn't be more stark between the DNC and the RNC. It was phenomenal. It was
Mhm.
so great. Now, Mike, uh, uh, generally every Thursday, third Thursday, was it third Thursday or so? He has a previous engagement, so I get a chance to
Mm,
go solo, which I have no problems with at all. But instead
right.
of getting on the air, I just put a replay on and watched the DNC. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. I did get
Wow.
a chance. I got a chance to see former President Barack Obama's speech, Michelle Obama. It
Mm,
was absolutely. I mean, when I talk about the difference between the two being stark, uh, I could only stomach a couple of minutes of the RNC. I could only stomach a couple of that. It was boring.
mm.
It was filled with hate.
I'm shocked you even tried.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I try to
yeah,
be
I couldn't have done it.
I try to be a fair reporter, and I did watch a little bit of it as much as I could stand. There's Mike, Mad Mike.
Mhm. Hey, Mike, how are you,
How
my
are you,
friend?
sir?
Hi, all.
Great,
Here, let
great,
me
great,
turn my
great.
phone off.
Hey.
There we
That's
go.
okay. A couple of things. I was telling Ann. Oh, by the way, uh, I'm not sure what you heard or not, but Dr. Demery, I know you know that he had surgery a few weeks back, and I
Right.
talked to his wife today. It's a slow recovery, and so
Mhm.
I was wondering why he wasn't returning my calls. He said, William, he's not up to returning any calls right now. He's just trying to rest and
Okay.
get himself together. Uh, so I would ask that you guys, if you don't have his number, Mike, I believe you do, and I know you do. I will text it to you, Mike, if you don't have it,
I
and
have
send
it.
him a text message. You have it. Send him a text message and tell him
Yeah.
that you're thinking about him because I know the entire panel is. You see, and then
Right.
also, Mike, we set a record and shocked the world last week because we had no disagreements at all on the boomerang,
Yeah,
which was
you
a
know why?
Because no
because
politics were being discussed.
because I'm a gentleman.
No,
Because I'm a gentleman. Is that what you're trying to say, Mike? Is
and
that
the only reason we didn't disagree is because we were talking about women.
we're talking about? What?
I'm kidding.
Women.
I said we were talking about
What?
women. That's why we didn't
You were
disagree.
talking
Oh
about
no, no,
women.
no!
I'm
You're not going to
kidding.
drag
No.
me into that.
Okay. So,
You are not going to drag me. That is a total fabrication.
yeah.
Oh no, Mike, you get in trouble with
Hmm.
that one by yourself.
Sold off.
Oh no, partner. No, 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 no. But we had a subject that it would be hard for anyone to disagree with, and that was mental illness in this country. And Mike and I was thinking, oh, it's just Mike and I. I should have known. I said, well, maybe we'll just go an hour. We went the entire 2 hours. As a matter of fact, we went a few minutes over
And
because
buffering.
it is something that's plaguing uh, our country, and I'm sure there's mental illness uh, uh, that's plaguing other countries as also. I know this is, but here as well. I mean, it's an I would say epidemic proportions. I mean, would you guys agree with that?
Oh yeah,
It's
we got a
Well,
serious
what's on
problem.
the streets these days? If I drive, go ahead, Ann. Sorry.
Y'all keep breaking up.
Oh, we lost Ann. Oh, there she is.
Well, I'm
Can you
not
hear
breaking.
me? Y'all
Well,
keep
I can
breaking
hear
up.
you.
Okay.
Okay, I can hear you loud and clear. Okay.
Okay. Look. Okay. Look,
What?
this is the new equipment. So this is my birthday equipment. I don't know what's
Oh,
going on. And don't say anything
uh,
about Andre. He was already
uh,
in here.
oh, okay. Okay. I'm gonna leave it alone. It's new equipment. Okay. All
I'll
right.
go get him.
Okay. Well, go. You can take care of that. You can go. Give him, get him. But no, we talked about that and the seriousness. There it is. But I tell you what, I think that this 2024 election is causing a lot of people anxiety. We talked about, and I believe that a lot of these churches and a lot of these greedy, nefarious preachers, they're causing a lot of problems as well, and they're contributing to our mental illness epidemic. Hey, Valua Brand, how are you? Thanks you so much for tuning in. Denzel Goodman. Hey, Denzel, you said you a groove? I think that's what I read in the comment section as well. Are you one of my groove brothers? If so, say yes. Let me know. But no, mental illness is something that I think that is understated, underreported, and underdiagnosed. And our politicians, it's something that they'll talk about it after there's a mass shooting. They will talk about mental illness. Oh, he has a problem. He's mentally ill. Well, what are we doing to address that? I remember going back, and I think, wow, you must have been, I don't even know, back in Reagan. You were a little girl when Reagan was president, weren't you? Oh, and we lost her. She'll be back on. But uh, I remember Mike, when Reagan was president, I believe that he opened the floodgates. What's that? It's Patton Hospital, and they started letting a lot of people around the country out of
Yeah,
these mental
Patton State,
institutions.
Patton State
Patton
Hospital.
State. Yeah,
Pat-
yeah.
Patton
He
State
started letting a
Hospital.
lot
Yeah.
of people out of these institutions. I don't know what the purpose of that is. And you know how
He
things
didn't
are.
let them out. He kicked them out.
He, you say kick them out?
Yeah, he didn't let them out. He kicked them out. Yeah, he's the one like you said, opened the floodgates. He's the one that said, "Hey, listen, we're not going to do this anymore. Get out. You're on your own." As far as
Wow.
I remember, and again, it's been a while since that happened, but yeah, he's the one that started all that. And now we have all the mentally ill people living on the streets, and they really need to be institutionalized or at least uh, monitored in some way, fashion, or form, so that they're taking their meds, so that they don't become a blight on society that so many of them are now. I mean, and when you look at our vets on top of that, so now we've got the mentally ill out there. We've got the people that can't get off the drugs that makes their mental illness even worse, and then we
Right.
have the soldiers and our veterans that are trying to deal with all of their mental um, I don't want to say illness, but deal with their mental issues. And
Hmm.
what are we doing about it? We're nothing. We're letting them do the same thing. So what do? They turn to measures where they're coping, and their coping mechanism is drugs, alcohol, or some other issue. And so now we have all of these people living on the streets in different cities. I had the displeasure of driving through Los Angeles yesterday,
Oh boy.
and I hadn't driven through. Yeah, I haven't driven through LA in a very long time, and even I was shocked. I think San Bernardino is bad, but when I drive through LA, it's like, oh my, it's like San Bernardino on steroids as far as like the homeless and the encampments and all
It
the
is
mental
absolutely
illnesses
crazy.
going on there. And
I
what
couldn't agree
what
with you more. Now, go on, Mike. Continue.
no, it's very distressing to me. I'll stop there.
Oh no, no, no. You were
I was
doing fine.
I was going to go a little
Uh,
sideways.
okay. And are you okay over there? I mean, or do we have did Andre get you taken care of? And okay, might
Yeah,
be
she's locked up.
your
I don't think she's. I don't think
right.
she's got a computer issue. I think she's got a a connection issue with the internet. It is what it is, or whatever her router is, or something. It doesn't, because
Right,
it's
right.
been acting up for some time now. It's like, as I remember.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, she says
Uh,
we keep breaking up, but I think it's her internet connection.
yeah, I think it is. And have Andre to check your connections there, with your the plugs and everything like that. Because no, I can hear Mike, but you're freezing. Can you hear me? I hope you can hear us. Okay. Oh boy. Yeah. Uh, she has this look on her face. So those of you who are listening via the app or the website right now or Alexa, she's having some problems there, and she has a strange look on her face there. But no, I think you're right, Mike. And mental mental illness, the causes and effects of mental illness is really something that we need to get our hands on it, because it is something that has caused some real issues. Y- Okay, I'm looking for information about mental illness. Mental illness is a general term for a group of illnesses. Oh, whoa, hold on. I hadn't seen this before. I'm reading right now. Mental illness is a general term for a group of issues that can affect a person's mood, behavior, perceptions, and thinking. These illnesses can make it difficult to cope with relationships, work, and other demands. Mental illness can be caused by a variety of factors, environmental factors, genetic factors, um, adverse childhood experiences, ongoing medical conditions, stress, uh, socioeconomic factors. And, mental illness can also have a negative effect on the body. You know, I think also we fail to realize is that your mind and your body works hand in hand. It works hand in hand.
They're
It,
definitely connected. They are
oh, it's
connected.
no question about it. You know, uh, there was an old term. There was an old term. You're going to worry yourself sick. Have you heard it before? I've heard. I've
Yes,
heard some older
it's
people
true.
say,
It's true.
"Yep, you're gonna, or you're gonna worry yourself to death. You're gonna worry yourself sick."
Mhm.
And what happens is your body. We are full of chemicals, folks. Okay, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor, but this is stuff that I've learned throughout the years. So, but our bodies are full of chemicals, and it depends on our thinking whether our body's going to uh, excrete inwardly a good chemical or a bad chemical. Okay, it could be a good chemical or a bad chemical. The bad chemicals are toxic. Okay. I'm gonna pull up the exact name of the chemical that release toxicity in your body. Okay, or it can release endorphins. The feel good drug that's in our body. So our bodies are full of drugs, and it depends on how we think. How we think determines what type of chemical our body releases. So it's all connected. It is an ingenious. Uh, we were designed. Uh, I mean, it was ingenious how we are designed. The computers are made. We are the blueprint. Our minds are the blueprint for a computer. Now, he also, speaking of computers, remember the old term when computers first came out: garbage in, garbage out. Okay, so whatever garbage we put in our heads, Mike, or whatever good stuff we put in our head, that's what's going to come out. So you think about that as well. We can create our own viruses by being by our thinking, negative thinking. Uh, I remember one of my motivational speakers. I forgot who that was, but he said, "Stinking thinking. You want to get away from stinking thinking." You know, and because whatever we think about is going to manifest itself one way or the other, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. So, Anne, are you back with us now?
I'm trying to be.
I think no. I think okay. I think you're okay. I think you're okay. Yeah, but we're talking about. Um, when we start talking about mental illness, it's not a monolith. I was reading earlier, mental illness is a general term for a group of illnesses that can affect a person's mood, behavior, perceptions, and thinking. So, if if someone sounds a little strange to you, okay, I think we need to pay attention to that. If someone because if someone's moody, I think we need to pay attention to that, and especially if they're friends of yours who they're acting abnormally, then I think we need to pay attention to that. Just don't brush it off. If someone, we talked about this last week, and too, you go around a friend or you call a friend, and you can hear in their voices a lot of times what mood they're in. You've called people before, and you said, "Hey, how are you?" They said, "I'm okay," and you can tell by the very sound of their voices, and things aren't really okay. I was talking to a friend just last week. I said, "How are you?" She said, "Well, I'm okay." I said, it doesn't sound right." And she said, "Oh, I'm okay." I said, "No, no, no, no." And I started digging. She said, "Well, actually, I've been going through a lot. I've been going through this. I've been going through that. I'm a little stressed, you know." So uh, I think we need to, just when someone says, "Well, I'm okay. I'm doing all right." If we're friends, then I don't have a problem intruding or saying or pushing them a little bit further. And then if they just say adamantly, "I don't want to talk about it," I said, "Well, okay,
Right.
but I'm not going away. When you're ready to talk about this, let me know." And I would change the conversation. I said, "Well, sometimes if I'm in a particular state uh, that I'm detecting here, these are some things that I do that may help." Okay. Sometimes they'll open up, but sometimes, depends on how painful that situation is. And I want your take on that.
I it's one of those things that's a slippery slope indeed. Because there's a fine line between being a concerned friend
Hmm.
or pushy or nosy or and it really does depend on the person. You have people who are private. You have people who are really open, and share everything. So when those people withdraw, I think it's an easier thing to see, this person who's like an open book in your life that can't hold water, tell all their business and then they withdraw into themselves. I think that one's easy. It's when you have somebody that's private, that doesn't share a lot, um, anyway, and then gives you the impression that they don't like for you to poke around in their business. Those people can be harder to to reach. And I can understand that because on the one hand, I don't mind having friends, but on the other hand, I'm really what do you call it, self-reliant, I guess. I tend to want to do things and handle things myself. I don't like asking for help. So it's, if I ask for help, then it's serious.
Right.
I really need you if I break down and say, look, can you do this for me? Because otherwise I'm that, I guess, kind of cynical person that prefers to, rely on me,
Hmm.
for the most part. Now,
Eh,
when it comes to getting those people to, the help that they need, I think that makes it harder for them because,
mhm.
they're more likely to try to, if they do anything at all, look it up and self-medicate
Okay.
versus seeking out the people, who can help them. I learned,
Mm.
a long time ago that when it comes to my mental health, I don't want to play games with that, because depression is just such a deep pit, and you
Mm.
just can't crawl out of it on your own. I needed a help. So when I see the first signs of that in my life, I run to get the help that I need because I don't want to find myself in that pit ever again. But I know that there are a lot of people who, who are just the opposite. They will wallow there until things get really out of hand. So it's hard. It's a hard situation to be in for everybody involved. How do you help the people that you love, get the help that they need
Mhm.
when they're resistant. So I can see the how that would be an issue, where you want to push a little bit.
Mhm.
How much can you push? How much will they take before they withdraw completely? It's that type of thing.
Absolutely. I was looking at something, and Mike and I, we talked about this yesterday. You talk about the depression.
Mm,
Depression is a dangerous thing,
mhm,
especially for the person that is depressed. It could be a danger to the person that they're living with as well. You
yeah.
know, I said this before, and both of you probably heard me say this before. I know one show, Ann and I, it was Ann and Dr. Demery and I, we were doing a show, Mike, and it was on depression. And
Mm,
I got a message from a friend of mine, a longtime friend that I've known since high school. And she
mhm,
said, "Thanks for doing that show." And she said something that you may not know. She said, "I've been depressed for years. I've been
mm,
depressed for years." She said, "I'm on medication, you
mm.
know, and she said and I also found myself drinking a lot. Found myself
Wow.
drinking a lot."
Wow.
And she says, "I don't like what was it? I don't like brown liquor because that makes me mean."
At least she knows herself. Wow.
You know, but
Wow.
I was shocked because she was always bubbly.
Mhm,
But I hadn't seen her. I was in California. She was in Virginia when
mhm,
we had that conversation. We hadn't talked in a few decades, right? And she says,
mhm.
"Yeah, brown liquor makes me mean." And she said, "But I've been
Wow.
depressed for a long time." I know at an early age, she got married after right out of college, right? And
Mm,
her husband was walking home from work one night. I don't think they lived
mhm.
too far from where he lived, and he got hit by a car and got killed. I mean,
Oh,
so you can
wow.
imagine. And then I believe also, and it Mike, that she had a child that died. So,
Mm,
I mean, this
wow.
is one thing after another. And
Right.
then she came to a point that she had to move in with another relative because she was
Mm,
getting evicted out of her home.
mm.
So there was a lot going on there, a lot
Right.
going on.
Right.
And like I said, it was a shock to me because I've always known this person as being a bubbly person, right?
Mhm,
Now,
mhm,
Mike and I, like I said, Mike and I, we talk a lot off air. And I remember one conversation we had one time. Mike said, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." He said, "Don't make me get on a plane." All right, don't make me get on and come out to see you, right?
Right.
It is so, and that's what friends do.
Yes.
That's what real friends do. One thing I want to say, Mike, though, is that we really need to. Now, I think we can push a little bit harder when it comes to our children.
Mm,
If our children are acting in a way that's not normal, they're not.
mhm,
They don't want to go out and play. They don't want to go to school. Uh, they don't want to do anything. And you
mhm,
see a vast difference between the way they used to act and the way they act now. I think we can push a little bit more when it comes to our children because
Of course.
children, in my opinion, I don't have any stats on this, Ann or Mike, but
mhm,
I believe they are more likely to commit suicide than
mhm,
some adults. Well,
mm,
what do you say, Mike? Didn't we talk about this
Well,
last week?
no, you're exactly correct because at that age where you're transitioning from being a child to a teen, I think is the most vulnerable area. And I think if you do pull up the stats, because I have seen them in the past, I believe they're the highest risk of committing suicide is our teens, because
mm,
once again their system, like you said, we're loaded with chemicals, and their bodies are being loaded with these brand new chemicals, at least brand new to them, as far as
mm,
transitioning from child to not even adult, but a teen, and it
Mhm.
weighs heavily on them. And then you throw in some peer pressure on top of all that, and and that's why we end up with teens that are so depressed because they're confused. And I mean, they're even to the point of confusion of, gosh, was I born in the wrong body? Am I a
Mm.
boy? Am I a girl? Am I neither
mm.
one? So you throw that into the mix, and yeah, it's just it's it's blender soup as far as like the chemicals in their body.
Mm. Hey, Mike, let's go back to you for a second because you worked in law enforcement. You know, some of our guests, most of our audience knows that listen to us often, but for our new audience, you were an investigator. And I know you had to investigate some tough cases when it came to children, children being molested. Uh, and that has to be traumatizing to a lot of our children. And it can cause some deep, deep psychological scars. Okay. I want you to address that and also the dangers of the internet. And at what age do you think it's safe for our children really to have access to the internet?
Oh, wow. I've never really thought about that. I think that at any age below adult, and when I say adult, we're going to go with the 18, which is generally accepted. At any age below 18, they should be at least monitored, if not restricted completely. I would think that, and I think Anne did something very, very smart on her part. She didn't allow her sons to have cell phones and such until she thought they were of a maturity level where they could appropriately deal with the internet and know the rights and wrongs and do's and don'ts and the evils that exist on the internet. And you know, our cell phones are pretty much our connection with the internet these days. But I would think limited access to the internet and computers and such. Computers are a great learning tool, but gosh, I would think below the age of 14 is what I'm going to throw out there. I would think
Right.
they need to be heavily monitored up to 14 and then limited after 14 to 18. Uh, I think that's just what's in my mind. I have no stats to back that up, but I think that's good parenting they're not adults. And even after 18, I mean, think back, and I won't throw you under the bus here, but William, think about you and I when we were 18 and some of the
Oh,
goofy stuff that we did,
oh
even
man.
at the age of being a supposed adult. And now
Right.
I've read recently, and I think we've talked about it here on the Boomerang. They're saying now that you're mentally you haven't completely developed until you're 25, and I'm looking back and going, yeah, that's probably pretty close because I mean, from 18 to 25, even for me, I was still and at part of that journey of in my ages, even from 18 to 25, and even being a law enforcement officer, I was still doing some goofy stuff. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I don't know. I think guys don't ever truly mature.
Mike, you know what? I tell you what. I'm not going to disagree with you either on this one. I was thinking just yesterday. I had no idea that we were going to talk about this tonight, but we just got on it, and I think it's so important that we do because Mike and I, we like I said, we covered 2 hours of this same topic last week, and I was walking around yesterday, had nothing to do with this show. I was just thinking back of my younger years, my childhood years, teenage and early adult. I said, "Doggone, man, you did some dumb stuff back then." I mean, I did.
Didn't we all?
But I do believe that I'm going to say this: that women mature a lot faster
Mm,
than men. I believe that because I said, "Doggone it, man! I took some risks back then that
mm.
I wouldn't dare take now."
Oh, of course not. You're the melanin has definitely set in at this point.
Wow. I mean,
Like,
seriously. I mean, riding around with I remember riding with this cat. Now I did make a wise decision. It was this guy. Uh, I'm not gonna call his name out, but we had the same initials.
oh,
Same initials, okay. Uh, and I was William A. Brown, and he was Willie A. I'm not gonna call his last name out, okay. And this guy was riding through the streets. I mean, even there's snow on the ground, and this guy is speeding.
wow.
And I remember us going across a bridge one time, and the car is sliding, and he's still. When I got out of that car, I said, I will never
Never do it
ride.
again.
I will never ride with him again. And
Never.
I'll tell you something. I've had friends, and the saddest thing, or one of the saddest things that you can ever witness, someone who just graduated from high school
Mm,
and they're partying and they get in a car, but they never come home
yeah.
because they've gotten in speeding, drinking, getting into
Mm,
car accidents. And Mike, I know that you've been on scenes after high school graduations where someone
mm,
had to knock on their parents' door.
mm,
Your child isn't coming home. That's got to be the
mm.
hardest. It is
Oh, that hurt. Mm,
hurtful for the parent, but it's got to be hard for the officer that delivered that message.
mm.
Have you ever had to deliver a message like that, Mike,
Oh
to
yeah,
anyone?
oh yeah. No, it's devastating, and those
Oh
things
yeah.
affect me to this very day. But I didn't do it. I'm not the one that created the bad
Mm,
situation. I was only there to handle it or to make it better. And there's some things you just can't make better. I mean, there's you can't unfire the bullet, so to speak.
mm,
And yeah,
Right.
I've had to knock and talk a couple of times and
mm.
go, I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs.
Wow.
Jones or whatever. It's yeah, and then you hold them and
Wow. Now, who as a an officer of the law, who has to make that call or knock on that door, Mike?
I don't think there's actual protocol. A lot of times it's the coroner's office.
Mm,
Many times it's the
mm,
law enforcement agency. It's just like
Mm,
whoever decides to take on the task.
mm.
There, I don't think there's this you have to or you have to. I've never seen that happen. I've just seen where you get together and you go, okay, I'll do it.
mm,
Wow,
mm.
wow. I
That's sad.
remember when I was working for a major firm, Mike. You know the firm that I'm speaking of because that's where yeah, I was working there when we met. I'm not giving them.
Awesome.
I'm not giving them a plug because they're not paying us. Okay, but anyway, I had an assistant
Mm,
uh, that worked for me. You know, she would send out all of my email correspondence and
mm,
would do my reports and things of that nature. And she came to work one Monday, and she was in a I mean, she was just sad. I mean, and I
mm,
can understand. If she told me what happened, I could understand. Two of her best friends were driving in Riverside, California, and somehow got stuck on a train track.
mm,
And you can imagine, yeah, the worst did happen.
mm,
They
mm,
all got hit by a train,
mm.
and it killed both of these beautiful young ladies. Boy, yeah, they're beautiful. I don't. It doesn't matter what they look like, but
Right, right. Mm,
young ladies.
mm,
I mean, it was no fault of their own.
mm.
But Mike, someone had to deliver that message to the family
Yeah.
that your 20 some old your old daughters, they're not coming home.
Well,
And
even worse than
go ahead.
that, somebody had to clean it up.
Oh boy.
I mean, you never think. I know years ago we talked to a police officer who wrote a book about
Wow.
healthcare issues facing um, law enforcement and other emergency personnel. But I mean, think about it. You somebody has to go out there to the scene
Uh-huh.
and look at this body, you know what I'm saying, and recover the body. Somebody has to work on the body.
Wow.
It's one of those things that can mess with you. I One of the stories my husband has told me a bunch of times is a deacon at our church. He was out and he saw somebody on their motorcycle, and he literally saw the wreck and the person's helmet rolling down the street without the body
Whoa.
because his head came off. He's like, it messed him up for a long time. So, that's just one incident. But imagine
Mm.
if this is your job, if you're the EMT, you're the fire department, you're the police officer, you're the coroner, you're the who's the person doing the autopsy. All these people, that are dealing with this on a regular basis. I remember going to a legal conference, and it was a mixed legal conference where it was us, law enforcement, that type of thing. And we were talking about the fentanyl problem, and they were talking about how they find people after they consume opioids in the strangest positions. And so, the cops were laughing it off, and I'm like, I know some people in this room probably think that that is insensitive, but they got to find a way to cope with this.
It
You know
is
what
a
I'm saying?
coping
So when you
mechanism.
find somebody bent over, on the toilet because
Mm.
they shot up in the bathroom and they died before they can even get up and pull up their pants. I mean, that
Wow.
is sad. It's undignified, but you are the
Wow.
person who's got to find a way to live with this for the rest of your life. So how do you do that? And it's so I wasn't looking at them as like, you know, that was really mean of you. I'm looking at them as you got to find a way to process this and be able to go on with your life to the next case. And then
Mhm.
especially if you're working DEA cases, drug enforcement cases. You don't have a choice but to figure out a way to cope with it. And laughter, the Bible says, is good, just like medicine. You didn't make these people become addicted to drugs, and no, nobody should die like that. But then at the same time, if you knew the number of law enforcement people who committed suicide, who became alcoholics, who their home life suffers, and their divorce. There's a lot that they are coping with that we don't see, because that's not our job. We didn't
Right.
sign up for that, but they did. And so I think we have to kind of recognize that there's a fine line between being unfeeling and uncaring and trying to find a way to deal with the stuff that you see every day in those
Absolutely.
positions.
Absolutely. Mike shared a story with us last week, and I was asking Mike a question. As a first responder,
Mm-hmm.
what do you guys do to get help? And Mike, if you don't mind repeating the story, it was a situation where you guys were in an area that wasn't easily accessible to get to, and it wasn't easy to get out, and there was
Mm-hmm.
heavy brush,
Yeah.
and so when you guys find a body or so, and where it will take maybe more than one of you to take that body out, there wasn't room enough for two or three of you to do that. And so while you guys were trying to, I'm paraphrasing, so you correct me where I'm wrong, uh, um, but you you got everybody trying to figure out how to do it. You said, "I'll do it," and you picked the body up, a dead body. They went in a
Mm.
body bag and put it over your
Wow.
shoulders and walked
Wow.
up to an area where you guys could transport the body. And
Wow.
I asked Mike, "What do you guys do?" Because it has to be traumatic for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to
Mm-hmm.
you and other first responders to have to deal with something like this. Now, I'm going to go
Mm-hmm.
off camera for a second. I need to do a check, but I want you to share with the audience as much as you can about that story and how and what it is that you guys do also, because it's got to affect you mentally. And how do you deal with it?
Mm.
What Williams referring to is there's an elderly woman that lived in Rancho Cucamonga, which is an area here in Southern California, not within San Bernardino County, and
Mm-hmm.
she had the onset of Alzheimer's or dementia, and she drove
Mm.
her car. She thought she was on the correct road to go see her son, her grown son, and I
Mm.
believe she was in her late 80s,
Mm.
or maybe even early 90s. But she drove on uh, out in through Lytle Creek, which is a pretty much a rural, very rural and very brushy. Uh, it's not what you would consider to be like a city. It's
Mm-hmm.
very
Mm-hmm.
mountainous, lots of trees and such. And she drove out as far as she could, and she got her car stuck in the sand out there. And she walked with canes, and
Mm.
both of her canes were in the back seat of her car. And then because Lytle Creek's way out in the wilderness, there were some bullet holes in her trunk. So when
Mm.
her car was found, we thought there was some nefarious things going on, and we were very, very concerned.
Mm.
Well, our concern was should have been in a different direction. But I mean, obviously, we jumped to conclusions in law enforcement. Said, "Well, this looks bad." Her cane's in the back seat. She didn't walk out of here on her own, and there's
Mm-hmm.
bullet holes, and, which isn't uncommon. If your car's in a shooting area for a while, people are going to shoot it. And
Wow.
so what she had done was, in actuality, is she had gotten out of the car. She didn't take her canes, and she had walked through the brush, thinking that she was going to her son's house. Now, after her car was got stuck, and again, her mind was not in the right uh, level of thinking, and so
Right.
she was making bad decisions, not because she was a bad person. She just had some issues with age.
Cognitive decline. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So she got herself way back in the buckbrush, and
Mm-hmm.
she was very small in stature. She was probably less than 100 pounds. And
Mm.
even though it was a warm time of the year, she expired due to exposure
Mm.
overnight. Just because she didn't have any body fat, and the night was cold enough that she died overnight of exposure. And
Mm.
when you go hypothermic, which is you get too cold, your mind really does some wacky things. You think that you're too hot. So
Mm.
she had stripped off all of her clothes. She had taken
Mm.
her wedding ring and her other rings and thrown them into the bushes. She
Mm.
did have her purse with her, and in her purse she had her like her social security check that she had cashed. So she had like sixteen
Mm.
hundred dollars in cash in her purse.
Oh
And the
wow.
purse was sitting there. And by the time we found her, which was a very short period of time, but like I said, it was just overnight. Again, all those conditions existed. She had stripped off her clothes, thrown her valuables into the bushes, and
Mm.
the coroner came out. And of course, I was on a mounted team at the time, mounted search and rescue team, and
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't get the horses back in there. We could barely get our own bodies back in there. And the
Mm.
coroner came out. The coroner did their initial inspection. We helped the coroner put her in the body bag, and now we're trying to figure out how do we get this body bag out of there, because we couldn't stand side by side and carry the bag.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so these guys are all him and hawing. I said, "Stop, you guys!
Mm.
Give her to me." So I, I believe everybody knows what a fireman's carry is. It's over the shoulder where you're holding the legs on this side on your across
Mm-hmm.
your chest, and then their head
Mm-hmm.
is to the rear. And the body bag is very thick uh, material that can withstand some abuse. So
Mm.
I put her in a fireman's carry, and the guys, as best they could, they got ahead of me, and tried to pull back the brush, but I used the backside of the body bag to just push through the brush to get her and
Mm-hmm.
me out to an area where we could put her across a horse or actually get her into a vehicle. I don't remember exactly what we did,
Right.
but and William was concerned about how that affected me. Well, number one, I didn't cause her to die.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't part of the problem. I was there
Right.
to be part of the solution, and to be
Right.
dignified with her body, get her back to her family, even
Mm-hmm.
though she had expired. That was my job, is to be dignified in caring for her dead body,
Mm-hmm.
and be caring towards the family so that they get that closure. That's I hate that word, by the way, closure. It's
Yeah. Yeah. It's closing what?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh, but that's what I had to do. I had to return her to her family, and do the dignified, correct thing. And
Mm-hmm.
did it affect me? It's not something I want to do. It was something I
Right.
needed to do. So
Right.
I believe that's the story that William wanted me to tell. But yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have always said, because I know that there are those who are on the one end of the spectrum where they're this is really bothering them, and it's very difficult for them um to cope with. And then you have other people who are on the other end of the spectrum, like, is there something wrong with me because I'm not bothered by this? I believe those people are in that group that you were made to do this. You were built for it. You know how we say, in the black church, some people were called to preach, some people were chosen, and some jokers just went. I think and I think there are a lot of people who just went into into law enforcement or first responders, and they shouldn't be there.
Right.
um, but at the same time, I think that's true for every profession. It's really hard. There are very few of us who find our true purpose in life, what we were meant to do, meant to be. And so you have a lot of people in places where they're just not the best fit, or
Hmm.
they're just getting a paycheck.
Right.
And everybody else is suffering, because of it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that people who are really sensitive and whatnot shouldn't be in law enforcement. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
Mm.
I believe personally, that God built us all to withstand certain things.
Right.
And I don't think anybody who's, is in law enforcement and you are there for the right reason, meaning, um, this is your purpose in life and you know what's your purpose in life, because you're going to feel that passion, that love for what you do, but you're going to feel the love for everybody that you are supposed to be a blessing to. And what I mean by that is the Bible makes it clear that love is patient, love is kind.
Hmm.
And one of the things that love does, and I won't go through the whole list, is protect. And so I think people who are truly meant to be in law enforcement, truly to be meant to be in the military, truly meant to, be working for spy agencies, on behalf of their country, that the thing that should take them there first and foremost is love. And because they're built to love in that way, to be protective, that they may be able to withstand a lot more than just a normal everyday average person would, when it comes to those kinds of scenes. Not saying that it doesn't affect them at all. Not saying that it's something wrong with a person who ended up getting PTSD. Not saying that at all. I'm just saying I truly do think that there's a blessing that comes with walking in your purpose. I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does. I just saw a comment that I just put it on the screen. Valua Brand said, "Healthcare is a perfect example too."
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
yes,
You
yes.
think about you, a doctor or you a nurse, and you're trying to save a child,
Mhm,
and a
mhm,
child or an adult expires under your watch, or you're right there,
mhm,
and I think it's underreported uh, about these people also that's trying to save someone. You
mhm,
take uh, a firefighter, and the building's on fire, and there are people in there screaming, and you can't get to them in time, or you're a paramedic and there's someone who's gotten shot or a terrible accident,
mhm,
things
mhm,
of that nature. It has to, because you're right, and certain people are built to do certain jobs,
mhm,
but on the other hand, it has to affect them uh, in some other way.
mhm.
Uh, I'm trying to get Dr. Sims.
Well,
Hey,
while you're,
Dr. Sims.
hey lady, how are you?
I could be better, but I'm good.
Well, good, good, good.
Yeah.
And I tell you, Dr. Sims, you're right on time because we're talking about mental health. We're talking about mental illness, and I'm not sure whether you heard the story that Mike told about him being able, him having or he chose to carry out a dead body because it wasn't enough room for more than one officer to be able to carry these people out. And we're talking about the effects of mental illness on people, especially our first responders, whether you're a firefighter, whether you're a police officer, and Baloo was talking about you're in a health profession and you got a baby that's died under your watch, and you did everything, and the doctor did everything that they could to save that child. Uh,
Mhm,
and it has to have uh, a traumatic effect on you, and especially if you don't get some help or treatment
mhm,
behind it. I hope there are some programs in places for these first responders, from medical to law enforcement to fire to whoever it is, to deal with it.
mhm.
Dr. Sims, you are a specialist, as far as mental health is concerned, and things of that nature. I'd like to have your take on that.
It's funny you should ask it. Hi, everybody. And I
Hey
didn't mean to come
lady.
up like that. It just had some tragic events in the family, and so we buried my cousin yesterday. And so anyway, very
Mm.
Uh,
tragic. But God's good. God is good.
my
My
condolences, my dear.
condolences. Amen.
Thank you.
Mm,
So,
mm,
as you know, I've lost a sister and I lost
Right.
mhm,
another cousin, and then this cousin who was very instrumental in my education. So,
mm.
anyway, but as
Still
far as
praying for all of you.
yeah, please do.
Yeah.
And I'm still processing it because
Of
it was
course.
so quick. He
Mm,
didn't explain well, and I won't go into all that. But anyway, let me deal with mental health because see, that's something that I was talking to one of my family members about. If you don't seek counseling and if you don't seek to get some guidance,
mm,
even though I know the Lord and I love Him and I
mm,
understand what's going on, but it's nonetheless it's still hard. And
mhm,
so it's hard sometimes to process, especially if you're really close to that individual. He's very
mhm, mhm,
instrumental in moving forward. And he was the
mhm,
type of man that encouraged you greatly. But I'm still struggling with it. And
mm.
so, I pray all the time, but uh, I need somebody to talk to. And it is what it is.
Right,
So I can
right,
get a better perspective, even though I know biblically what the Bible says.
mhm,
We're human, and
right.
so we feel. And it
Mm.
is important because if you don't get the help, you can fall into a depression, which I started to. And let me tell you why. As
Mm,
much as I know the mental capacity of it, it's
mhm,
still in the human sector. Um, and so I almost fell into depression. And let me tell you what Satan's job is. I'm going to go biblical, right?
mhm,
Satan's job is to keep you buffered, is to keep you
mhm,
down and reminding you of the things that you went through. And I lost
mhm,
8 family members at 1 year, back to back to back. And I
mm,
remember falling into great depression to the point where I got paranoid. And
mm.
even answering the phone because every time I answered it, it
It was
appeared that
something.
somebody had died. And
Mhm,
so I didn't know the thing that I didn't know when you have to be aware that you're falling into mental depression or you're being bombarded mentally, you have to be aware that you are because a lot of people are functional, which I was. I went to
mhm,
work, and do what I needed to do. But when I got home, didn't realize I was depressed. Took off my clothes, got
mhm,
in bed, stayed in the bed the whole weekend, and
mhm,
finally
mhm,
went to the doctor because it was affecting my job. And so
mm,
sitting there crying, didn't realize I was crying. And I told her, I'm okay.
mm.
I'm really okay. And she's looking at me, just tears just flooding
She's like, nope, you're not
down my
okay.
face. I wasn't in reality.
Mm-mm,
Yeah, I wasn't in reality. She just took my hand and hugged me, and my body went limp. Okay, because
mm,
I was carrying all of that. But it's
mm,
important to strengthen your mind. One of the
mhm,
things that I do teach is flip the script on
mm,
a negative atmosphere. And how do I
mm,
do that? I love music. I love listening to praise and worship. I love that because it seems to get me off of me. I
mm,
remember, and you were talking about Mike. I remembered um, sitting in the room with my sister, with one of my nephews. In fact, my sister just passed. Both her sons died,
mhm,
and so the
mm,
last one,
Oh no.
mm,
he was in the hospital. And I used to work for the hospital many years ago. Y'all, my history of working is something else. You probably don't,
mhm,
but it's okay. I know where I was, okay? But my
mhm,
thing is this is that I was sitting in the room with her and I thought it strange the way there had his body. He was in ice, his eyes were wide open, but I saw nothing but death in his eyes. And I didn't
mm,
know if they was keeping his organ on ice or what. And that's where my mind was at the time.
mm,
And so they did something. We sat there, me and my sister sat there for an hour because I was able to take that with her.
mm,
And they did something to the machine and he flatlined right then
mm,
uh, while I
mm,
was holding her hand. And for her, she was very silent in her pain. She didn't hardly discuss anything. That's why I said
mhm,
that sister right there was so special, I tell you, in a good way, very good way. She didn't talk about nobody. She wouldn't join into any conversations about anybody. To me, she was the epitome and what God is calling for. God's still working on me. And I mean, I can't help from being jokey joke. That's just me sometimes, okay? But it's reality. And so me, I'm expressive, and she's just like, well, sis, oh well. And I'm like, you know what? Because I wanted to call somebody out and find because I went into business aspect. I would walk through that hospital. They thought I was the administrator, the head honcho, because I knew how things work. And because I work so closely with the CEOs of the staffing. But my thing is that you got to get your health together, because when your mental is unstable, your health is affected. I felt my body in these last few weeks, starting from the end of, let's see, January, February, March, April, May, end of April on up to this present time. I didn't realize that I was holding such hurt in my heart because I felt I was strong enough to deal with it. But my
Right.
body started reacting because my mind was in denial. And
Mm-hmm.
so it affected my body, my joints, and I'm like, I couldn't figure it out. Just extra hurting. And people don't get it. When you fall into that state, you don't get the help. Oh yeah, we're strong, but we're not as strong as we think we are at times. We need somebody to talk to that has a good mind, a good head on their shoulders, and who don't sympathize with your pain. They empathize with it, and they bring it out
Right.
to a point where they can understand where you're at. And with all the book knowledge that I have and wisdom that I have, you know, I'm still human. And sometimes we
Right.
forget that. And what reminds me, and I'll say this and then I'm done. What reminds me, when I was in school, I picked up on some things, even with the instructor, when he gave us certain homework assignments. There's something that I picked up on him. He asked the question and had to do with a personal nature. When I got home and I wrote it to what he called, perfection, whatever, I give God the glory for that. But I was
Amen.
answering his question for his personal life.
Mm.
And I never got my assignment back because he
Wow.
utilized it. But they want to get a different perspective from somebody else. And sometimes people don't want to admit that they're in a state of mind of needing help. That's pride that
Mm-hmm.
steps in. And so I just really believe, in a nutshell, that a person who is going through, seek the help. Don't be so, so stuck on your position or who you think you are and things like that. Get
Mm-hmm.
the help. And you know what? Get the help from somebody. Don't talk too much and share all your little business, because
Amen. Ooh,
I
say it
know out
again.
there,
Say
get
it
the help from
again.
somebody. Don't talk. Some people out there who can't hold their tongue. My daughter minister in church, and she told everybody, watch. That was her topic. Watch your mouth. And so
Mm-hmm.
when she started wrapping it down, even the pastor's head went down. Because when
Mm.
you share something that's really important to you and how you feel, you don't want to hear it on the pulpit. You don't want to hear it from
Mm-hmm.
other church members. When
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to hear it from your doctor telling somebody else ain't got no business knowing your business. And I've come across some things like that. And so that's why the trust factor is very low. But I will encourage anybody, I don't care how old you are, you got to get young kids in there to get some mental health,
Mm-hmm.
because it,
Mm-hmm.
it bothers you. That's why a lot of these kids are acting out, and so on and so on and so on. And so my thing is just don't be ashamed. Get the help. I don't care if you have a business of your own, William. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out.
I know you did. That's
I
okay.
know. I don't
No, that's
care
okay.
who you think you are, how educated you are, and what you feel about yourself. Sometimes we can esteem ourselves too high. We think that nobody can help us, but that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
I am of this persuasion, because I'm biblical. We are helpers of
Mm-hmm.
one another, and that is what it
Right.
is. And so, like sometimes I'll come in and bounce off Ann, okay, and she
Mm-hmm.
know it. And Ann's a good listener, even though I'm ratting and raving. I'll make her laugh. But in
Yes,
the
you
right
do.
way,
Yes,
and
you do.
so a life goes on. You can alleviate some of your pain. You can let people know that you can still remember them, you can still feel,
Right.
but don't allow it
Right.
to overtake you mentally and physically, because life goes
Mm-hmm.
on. I'm remembering the Bible, and I'll say this one thing, William. when God said, "Let the dead bury the dead," I thought that was a cold word. But
Mhm.
there is another meaning in that when I did a research, because some
Mhm.
people can hold on to death of a loved one who's no longer here.
Mm,
But I've been
Mhm.
taught you can remember whether it's good or bad. You can
Mhm.
remember, but I rather decipher the good more than the bad,
mm,
Right.
because I don't want to live my life like that, carrying all these burdens. Because
Right.
y'all know there's enough going on out in the world than for us
mhm,
to do that. But my thing is, don't stop a person from grieving. That's another thing.
Mhm.
You don't stop a
Mhm.
person from grieving because grieving is natural. We have
Right.
these super folks say it only take me 2 days to grieve, and I'm like, I want to know who you talking to, okay?
Mm.
mm.
That because you just put a lie out there and it's not true. You're living in
Right.
denial, and that's
Right.
what this
Right.
is all about. You don't have a time frame that you could put on
Exactly.
anybody to grieve, and we have done that to each other, and it caused
Mhm.
a lot of mental distress. And that's one thing that I've learned when I'm counseling. I want them to
Mhm.
be able to share, put it out on the table. I don't
Mm,
care how my children can tell you I can keep a straight face. Just tell me how you feel, okay?
Right.
I want to know how you feel, and you'll find out the more people can talk about it, the better they feel, okay?
Mhm.
And the more that you can share some good sound counsel. I've been to some folks that just shared their own theories. I'm not looking for your theory. I'm looking
Mm.
for some good sound
Right.
counsel that's going to
right.
help me live from day to day. That's what I meant.
No, no, you're fine with that. And I don't mind you taking that dig at me because that means you're getting back to your old self here. You're getting back. So, so keep the digs coming. I don't have a problem with that at all. One thing I would like to say about that as well. Um, some of us, for instance, I thank God right now. My mom had 8 of us, and
Wow.
thank God all 8 of us are still living. And I pray every day, and I say, thank God that all 8 of us are still living.
Mhm.
And I don't want to see my brothers or my sister rather, uh, to leave.
Right.
I one day we all are going to go,
Right. Right.
all one day, And so I just thank God for that every day.
Mhm.
Now, being the oldest, I was relied on quite a bit from my siblings.
Mhm.
I was relied on by my mom because while she was away, I became their babysitter.
Mhm.
I had to feed them, make clothe them, make sure they
Mhm.
took a bath, got to school, and a lot of things because my mom worked 3 jobs as
Mm.
a single mom to make
Mm.
sure that we had the necessities uh,
Wow.
for everything, right? And my nickname was Man. Okay,
Wow.
and there was a lot on me. So it was, and it is still hard for me to admit if I'm going through a struggle or something like that because I was
Mm.
supposed to be the backbone and the strength. You see, so
Mm.
in a lot of cases, I could be going through something, and I won't share it. I will
Mhm.
not share it because I'm supposed to be the strong one.
Right. Right.
And after listen to you, Dr. Sims, I have to agree that that is something very difficult for some of us to do.
Mhm.
To let us know we need help, or let us know that, hey, look, this is over my head, or things of that nature. So, now what you're saying is right there on point, Mike. You had
William, can I jump in here? You said something before it leaves my mind. When you were saying you were the older one, so you had the responsibility. And so I will be safely to say you hid most of the time your emotions or feelings. And so because you had to be strong for everybody else, been
Mhm.
there, done that, got a t-shirt. That's always not good either, okay?
Mhm.
right.
Because you can carry that thing after everybody's grown, you have no responsibilities now. And a lot of times, sometimes people act out that because they weren't able to share their feelings. They have this stuff bottled up in them. And then to a point where sometimes they explode on folks that they have no business exploding on. And that's why I would say this. I mean, it's good to have a responsibility. It's good to feel like a grown up and that you have, they trust you enough to do that. However, I'm finding out down through people's years, even myself, um, I was silent. I didn't say much, and I'm just doing my
Mhm.
thing. And also with others that I've talked to, they were silent, and so whatever I felt, I bottled up, okay,
Mhm.
and felt that I didn't have a right because I would rather suffer their pain than me feel mine, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so that's
Right.
not good. That is not good at all because guess what? I have found out down through the years of my teachings and my counseling that sometimes the anger is projected on people that was not even there. And so they
Mm.
are suffering the brunt of somebody else's pain that you're holding on to. You're lashing out at them and they have no clue why you're the way you are. And
Mm.
sometimes you're put in a category that you don't even belong in is because you were
Wow.
not able to stress your opinion, you're not able to stress your feelings, and then you come up being your tyrant. And
Mm.
we want to throw you out the window somewhere because of your behavior. And so
Mm.
it's not good. And like I told, I think I said this once before. You know, I was silent type, but I was also the motherly type. I was the
Mhm.
protector and things like that. But who was to protect me? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Right.
all those years, who protected me? And I became angry and I became
Mm.
bitter because I had to be the bigger person. Not today. I'm not like that today, but I had to get counseling for that.
Right.
Even though I was studying counseling, I had to get some counseling.
I tell you what, a lot of professionals in your field, they have to get counseling. I remember
Absolutely.
I worked for another company, and my job was I had to visit medical professionals, and I remember going to a psychiatrist rather, and
Mhm.
she told me something that I didn't realize, and she said, "Do you know psychiatrists have to see we have to see other psychiatrists?"
Yep.
Mhm.
You. Yes, you
Whoa!
do.
And that kind of hit me. You say, yeah, in our jobs, we must have to seek, we have to seek other professionals because we have to stay on point. And sometimes what we do is so stressful,
Hmm.
dealing with the things that we deal with. Okay. But anyway, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. When I was talking about how I had to help bring up my sister, my brother, she said, that's right. He did a good job, but he couldn't
But he
cook
couldn't
that well.
cook.
I can't
That
believe that. I can't
that
believe
is hilarious. I was trying not to laugh out loud.
Wait a minute.
Can you read about that thing, Emma?
I got a quick story to tell you guys. So my buddy was outside playing baseball, having a good time, and I had to go in the house and cook, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm saying, okay, I'm going to. I tried this for the first time, Dr. Simpson and Mike. I'm going to make
Hmm.
some biscuits. All
Oh
right.
Mhm.
no.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did.
You
Yes,
did
I did.
not.
Okay, and
Mm-mm.
so I had hooked up, and I thought I remembered my mom's recipe and cooked these
Mm.
biscuits. And man, I looked at the oven. They did the most beautiful golden biscuits you ever want to see. Right?
Mm.
Pulled them out
Hard
and
as a rock.
served them up to my brothers and my sister, and they tried to bite into
Hard as
it,
a rock. That's what I said.
Shame. Oh,
and they
shame.
started throwing my biscuits up against the wall. What is this?
Wow.
I, I,
Wow.
oh boy! And so I was so upset. My mom came home. I said, I tried to bake some biscuits for these knuckleheads, and they end up throwing it against the wall. She said,
Wow.
well, man, what did you put in it? And I told her everything I put in it. She said, did you use any uh, baking soda,
Oh goodness.
baking powder? I said, nope. She said, and she couldn't, she was smiling. She was trying to hold back the laughter. But I tell you, and do you know to this day they will not let me live that story down.
I
They
bet
will,
you they won't.
Nor will they
and
let you
so
make anything else either.
so
You go
I
Oh,
outside and
that
play
was,
baseball with these
that,
biscuits,
that was
partner.
the end of my baking career, Mike. That I've never baked anything before on my own. I've never tried a
oh,
cake, no more
oh,
biscuits.
William could mess up a bologna sandwich.
Oh my word! Now that is sad. Cause it's supposed to have a little burn on it to be right. If you mess that up, good night.
No. Come on.
Mm-mm.
You know,
You got to have just a little taste of burn around the
Something.
edges for a good bologna sandwich.
oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Anyway, moving right along. I'm tired of you guys here right now.
Hey, just not blame Emma. She's the one who read it
Yeah,
for us.
she's the one that outed me because I wasn't going to bring it up. Thanks,
But
Emma.
that's family, though.
Okay.
They,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Emma missed her call, and she should have been a stand-up comedian. Uh, should have been. But what we did have, though, there was a lot of laughter in our home.
Yeah.
that's a
We
blessing.
laughed at each other. We had my mom was funny. The whole family, it was just hilarious. But anyway, you're right though, Dr. Sims. A lot of professionals need to get and seek help from other professionals, right? And that go. I was talking about Mike and the stuff that he had to witness. Being a first responder. We talked about the firefighters. We talk about the healthcare professionals. We talk about people in your industry, Dr. Sims. Uh, and
Mm.
also now I've noticed know that being on the bench, you've heard some stories that aren't too pleasing, uh, and I don't know whether it affects you too as a judge because you have to make a decision. Okay, you have to make what you feel is the right decision. But I'm sure you heard some horrific stories when it come to children and
Well, when
oh,
I worked for the state, suing parents for custody of their children, um, I literally had multiple dead baby cases that I
oh
was
boy,
working at one time. Because if one child dies, then you take the other children into custody to protect them.
right?
Um, and this one particular case I had, there was a baby found in the trunk that had been
No.
strangled to death by its mother.
Oh no.
And another case that still to this day is just mind boggling. But, we're normally you have, where it's the children being taken from their mother's custody. But this was one of those reverse cases where a child's taken from a father and his girlfriend, I mean, just beat this child to the point where the child was brain dead, except that he could feel pain and cry.
Ooh.
And I had to go to the hospital and see this child that's crying, but otherwise is has no brain function.
Wow.
Um, so there were all kinds of things that I had to look at. Kids with cigarette burns. I mean, we're talking
Wow.
toddlers, cigarette burns on them. Um, and this one case that was particularly gruesome, that was a potty training incident gone wrong, and the child's got burns to the
Wow.
point where he's got to take oxycodone. And this is a toddler,
Mm-hmm.
taking that type of medication. So, you know, those things for me as a child who was abused fueled my anger to the point where I'm like, okay, you're not getting this kid back if I
Right.
have anything to do with it. And so we would go to the courtroom, and if I heard the other side call me a bitch at the end of the day, that was like an atta girl. I done a good job. I mean, they weren't hurting my feelings at all. And they didn't know that, but I'm like, thank you. That means I did what I was supposed to do on this
Right.
day. But when I say when you're in your purpose, this kind of gives an example. There was another guy, actually, who went on to be a judge. He was very pro family,
Hmm.
and we butted heads severely on a case that we had. I mean, we ended up being in court until like 7 o'clock that night. And then when it was over and everybody left, he and I had a knockdown, drag out personal argument.
Mm.
Because he felt that I was breaking up the family, and
Mm.
I argue you have a little girl who is being forced to be in the home with someone who has raped her.
Oh no.
Right.
Oh
I'm
That
like,
part.
I understand wanting to keep families together, but
Right.
she is a victim here, and she is forced every day to be in the same home with this
no.
person. And what you were supposed to do was keep them apart,
Right.
do therapy, see if and then get to the point where you can see if the family could be integrated. No, they were just living together on the sly, and then tried to hide the kid. It's
Oh
like,
no.
okay. So yeah, we had a pretty heated argument in the courtroom, and I'm like, you could call me whatever name you want to. I am pro protecting this particular kid.
Right.
So yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff that I saw and heard about and had to deal with. Um, but for me, it wasn't a hard thing to do until I had kids. And that postpartum depression thing was like, what made them snap and shake a baby, to the point where it
Right.
died? You know what? And that's when I couldn't do it anymore. It was like, okay, AJ was like getting away with murder. I couldn't say anything to him. I couldn't do, because I was terrified at that point about what made this person click. Other than that, before he was born, I could cry in my office and then plot how I'm going to make sure that you never ever have to have him more contact with this
Right.
kid again, because
Right.
I'm not going to let you hurt this child again. And so I tried after that postpartum stuff was over to go back, because I left for a little while and I went back and didn't know when I got hired that I was pregnant with Alex. And so I was good again until after I had him. And so looking at those things, it became a lot harder
Hmm.
to cope with it when you have a child of your own, especially because usually the dead baby cases were shaken baby cases.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like, what makes these people shake their kids? Or a kid was left in a car, and died because they were left in a hot car, stuff like that. And it's just really hard when you have a baby of your own to to cope with that type of stuff. At least it was for me.
Okay.
And that's why I ended up leaving both times, because I just couldn't deal with it and reconcile having kids of my own and then somebody else treating them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that. It was hard.
Okay. I've got a question for the panel, but I'm gonna start with you, Anne. In a situation like that, where you have a mother that has a history of abusing their children, mistreating their children, burning their children, or whatever crazy or just evil thing they're doing to their children. Okay, and I don't know the answer to this, but the question is, number one, should that woman ever be allowed to have a child again? And is sterilization on the table?
No, sterilization is not on the table. You
Should
cannot
be.
stop. You cannot stop people from having children. Now, what you can
Mhm.
do
Mm,
is keep accurate records. So, because we have it comes up on a regular basis. You'll have
mm,
I had cases, where
mm.
somebody had their parental rights terminated as the other kids, and then they went and had more kids and something
Yeah.
happened. So now we've got, a documented record of you doing this to these other kids, and us having to,
Mhm.
terminate your parental rights, and then something's happened to these kids. So there were cases where you could fast track it. We didn't have to go through the at that time. I don't know what it is now because I don't practice in that area anymore. But there's like a year-long process of trying to rehabilitate a family so
Mm,
that they could be reunited with one another.
mm.
And depending on how much the parents participated in the process, was whether or not you could fast track it or not. Like for instance, somebody's in prison and they ain't getting out. Well, okay, we there's no sense in us keeping this, going on for a year when the child came into custody because you got arrested and there was nowhere else for him to go, and you are not getting out, before this child reaches the age of 18. So this kid needs permanency, and we need to, free him or her up for adoption. So those types of things happen. But what also happens is you get cases where people have been in trouble, um like the one that I was telling you about where the lawyer and I were arguing. Well, later on, once things got settled, if I'm not mistaken, later on they moved to a different state because they didn't have that state didn't have any jurisdiction over what was going on in Arkansas, right? And so sometimes, we were able to find things out like that, and contact other agencies and have them go do safety checks, those types of things, to ensure the welfare of the kid, put them on notice that this is a family that you may need to periodically check on, to make sure that the kids are okay. But no, William, sterilization is illegal. And you can't force
Mm,
people not to have kids.
mm.
It's your right. What you can do is try to protect the children to the best of your ability. People complain about child protective services and the system, and the sad part about it is, if there were no child protective services, there would be a lot of kids who were a lot worse off.
Okay.
Um, and I say that because there was one child who called on her mom herself because she lived a better life in foster care than she did with her
Man,
mother.
Isn't that something? Mike, you had a reaction when I asked that question. And I understand what you're saying, Ann, and you know the law a lot better than I do. Absolutely. But, Mike, in my opinion, if you have a history of abusing your children, you shouldn't be able to have any children anymore. And like Ann said, it's not legal to sterilize, but doggone it. I was going to say something else. Uh, but doggone it.
I heard you. I heard you.
I
You
did too.
slipped.
you were thinking loud.
I did too.
You were
I,
really loud,
Okay.
very loud.
no, because to me, this is a very serious thing right here.
Mhm,
Children that grow up traumatized. Let's talk about, because we're talking about mental health, we're talking about mental illness.
mhm.
Children living in trauma, it affects them mentally. It
For
Right.
the
affects their
rest of their
mental
lives.
health.
For the
And a
rest of their
lot of
lives.
them, my sister talking about govern yourself. I only got the DA out. I didn't put the I didn't
Govern
put
yourselves accordingly,
I didn't
saints, as
I
they would
didn't
say
put
in the
the M and
church.
the N on it. I said that, yeah. Oh, that's what I said. Okay, but oh my
Yeah,
God,
we
that's a
all
tough one.
knew. We
But that's a
knew it.
tough one for me. That's a very tough one for me, because who's going to protect the children? And so, if they are coming up with parents like that, I mean, where do we break the cycle? Because people who are traumatized, in a lot of cases, Mike and Dr. Sims, they end up traumatizing other people.
That's what the
Hmm.
rehabilitation over the course of the year is for, to break that cycle. And in some cases, it works. It doesn't work all the time, but it does work at times, and it's a really good thing when you can see kids go home with their parents and things have changed. It's a hurtful thing when they go home and a parent has pretended, to do everything right, but they just want to get you out of their lives, and things go back to being bad or worse. And then in some instances, if you've got, for instance, a lot of kids came into custody when I worked for the state because meth was like skyrocketing. Kids coming into foster care, it was just taking over everybody's lives. Well, when you have people like that, recidivism is a big thing. People get off drugs and get back on them quite a bit. So that's not everybody's story, but you have a lot of people who will get clean and then, go back to using. The hard part is when, it's one thing when you have a person who's weak to drugs. It's another thing you have a parent who's weak to a man or a woman, and
Mhm.
who's abused their child or is a registered sex offender, and you won't break up with them. So this kid has to be removed from your custody for that person's safety, because mom won't leave the boyfriend, or
Mm.
dad won't leave the girlfriend who just beat one of his children, into a coma. I mean, it's crazy, that situation comes up, and you have children who this is all they know. So initially,
Right.
they're upset. They want to stay with their families because they don't know anything else. They don't know any better. Um, but some of them, once they do, we had a couple of kids. They were siblings, and they couldn't stay in the same home. And one of the children, they ended up in good homes, both of them. But one of the children wanted to have a relationship still with her brother, which was going to be allowed. The everybody was like, okay, fine, we'll make that happen. But the kid was like, no. The brother was like, he didn't want to see anybody he was biologically related to because he had gone through so much. Wasn't that his sister had done anything to him? He just was happy, and he did not want anybody that was going to remind him of that time being in his life. And he was young, and everybody respected that. It hurt his sister,
Hmm.
but what do you do when you have this child's mental health and this child trying to move forward from a really bad situation versus I want to stay connected with you because I love you and you're my brother. I
Hmm.
mean, they both have really valid feelings, really valid perspectives on it. But at the end of the day, the sister who wanted a relationship couldn't have it because the brother was like, he wasn't ready for that.
Right.
So it's a lot more that goes to you. People don't understand that what happens that causes a child to go into foster care is the tip of the iceberg that sank the Titanic. You don't see all the rest of that stuff that's underneath the surface,
Right.
which is why people don't like around here anyway being foster parents. They're like you can't whoop them or nothing. Well, that's because they may not have come into custody because they were being physically abused. But once you start peeling back layers, very often you find out that there were multiple types of abuse and neglect going on. So this child
Mhm.
may be a victim of physical abuse, even though that child was brought in for sexual abuse, or because mom and dad left them with somebody and never came back. You know what I'm saying? You don't know
Right.
what else was going on.
Okay. Now, since we can't sew their legs together or put the sterilize, okay.
Hey Mary, my nickname is Nene. That's my friend. Hey
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Dr. Sim, she she bowed her head on that one. She said, "Okay, I don't even know this guy here." Okay,
but you know,
since
can I piggyback on Anne? And
okay,
I'm listening to
then we
every.
will go back to Mike and then
Okay,
back
I'm
to Ann.
sorry. Well,
Okay.
we go to Mike, and that's okay.
No. You can no, you can pick it back
Okay,
over Ann.
but,
Then let's go
and,
to
and
Mike and then back to Ann. Okay.
okay,
So
and
Dr. Sim, we
I
can't sew the legs together. Can't do that, huh?
No,
you know what?
no.
Okay.
Anyway, I wish I could, but because of I know I had firsthand on 8 foster children that I fostered,
Mm,
and
mm,
their traumatic experiences were horrific, and they were
mhm,
horrific at the hands of family members. And a
mhm.
lot of times you would think it was somebody on the outside, but it's right in the house.
Right.
And I think I made this disclosure that hurt people, and it's a
Mm,
generational curse that's in
mhm,
certain homes. I will say that.
mhm,
One learned from it, and my husband that passed away, he was able to trust me enough to share some things that he went through
mhm,
at the hands of his father and their uncles and what have you, and the dysfunctions in the home. And a lot of times people don't know that they are living in dysfunctions
mhm,
because it's a normacy to them
mhm.
when things are happening because they don't know any better. Because a lot of
Right.
times they are isolated from the truth. And so when
Mhm,
they come to the knowledge of the truth, it's like, oh my God, all these things are happening to them, but they've had years and degrees and layers of
mhm,
traumatic experience. And I'm going to piggyback on you, where there was a family when I was at the hospital, working at the hospital, there was a family of 5 children. These were
mm,
prominent position people, and you look at people and think that they wouldn't do anything like that to their children.
mhm.
But there's a sickness in a whole lot of people. I'm talking about the upper echelon down to the poorest, the poorest.
Right.
They've got issues, and they had 5 children. The mother was doing the sons, and the father was doing the daughters. Okay,
Mm,
and they would
mm,
keep them locked up in the garage during the day while they
mm,
go to their highfalutin jobs. But they had a
mm,
sickness that was not dealt with, and they that
mm,
had it been exposed, I believe that those children would have been brought to safety. Where in the end, things were found out because the school system, when your child doesn't attend to school for a certain period of time, they're
Mhm.
required to report that, of course.
Right,
And
right.
they were able to rescue those children, those 5 children, at the
Mhm,
hands of their own parents. And so
mhm,
you have with these folks, and I've counseled adults, and it's hard for some people to get over.
mhm.
They'll talk a good game, and they'll make you think that they've gotten over.
That
And
they haven't.
when you counsel them, there's evidence of their pain. I have grown
Mhm,
men that are cutters. Okay,
mhm,
they will tattoo themselves, and you have their whole body being tattooed, but they're
mm.
hiding, they're cutting, so they're hiding their pain.
Wow.
They still have not come to
Wow.
reality that there
Mm,
is some help being given to them, but that seems to bring them more comfort to hurt
mm,
themselves, to
mm,
come to the rationale that it was not my fault. I had a
mhm,
young man whose mother was having sexual intercourse with him, his
mm,
own mother, up
mm,
until the age of 15, and his identity, he felt, was messed up. And what should he
mhm,
do? And so what he
mhm,
did, he got with another individual who had some mental issues, and that doesn't make them whole. But my
mm,
thing is this is like, uh, we have to do more teaching
mhm,
than what we had. And I can reflect back on my life. I have my older sister still traumatized. She
mm,
will be 74 this year, and she still has her drawbacks. Okay,
mm,
because certain incidences, what you've been through, there's triggers out there. Okay, that will
mm.
trigger your mind, and you will reflect back on the things that you have endured at the
Right.
hands of others. That's why I don't like a lot of TV shows that promote all this promiscuity and child abuse and things like that, because I
Mhm,
reflect back on my story.
mhm,
As much as I help everybody else and as much as I get therapy, guess what? I still reflect because I remember the pain.
mhm,
Okay. And
mhm,
for somebody said that's going to be erased from my mind, they are lying to you. You have
mm,
to know how to handle the triggers, okay,
mhm.
to combat those triggers, to walk away from them and don't let them control you. So
Right.
I alleviate myself from time to time, like this current incidences in my family. It brought me back to some things. And so guess
Mhm,
what? I had to do something that I've learned to work for me. Okay.
mhm.
Everything doesn't work for everybody. There's a way to handle it. And you have to use wisdom
Mhm.
on how to talk to people. But when the TV and the media is so blatant on some things, they have
Yes.
no sense of caring. And
Mm,
I tell people, look, turn off that foolishness. The lady that
right.
died above me, she used to call me so stressed out, and she was going through a lot. And I said, look, why are you watching these little sick movies? Okay,
Right.
that's bringing you back into your dilemmas. Okay,
Mhm,
why are you listening to stuff that's bringing spewing negativity? So I
mhm.
try to help my people. Like, you know what? Put some good soft music on, some songs that have meaning. I can't stand rap.
Yes.
I can't stand that rap. I can't because it's on my last nerve. There's no benefit in it for me. And so I
Mm,
said, these people are singing because they are feeling bad about themselves too. And they want
mm,
everybody else to feel they have no life as far they may be spewing out money, but they still have no life as far as
mm,
I'm concerned. And they're
mm,
hiding a lot of their pain behind this foolishness because they're sucking other people into their world. And so that's
mm.
how I look at it. But the thing is this is that we have to know what tools we can use to ward off ourselves from being sucked back into that arena. I don't care how old you are, how long you've
Mhm,
been working in this, like Ann, an attorney. I have a cousin who's an attorney general. Okay. I
mhm,
mean, you have those things that trigger you. And I said this before. What do you do to combat that trigger? Just like a person alcoholic, I deal with alcoholics too, drug addicts.
mhm,
What causes
mhm.
you to trigger? What and my veins pop out in my arm.
Wow.
He couldn't even focus on my counseling because he was
Mm.
looking at the veins in my
Wow.
they're easy
Wow.
attainable, they just pop out, you know? The
Mhm.
doctor would tell me, "You got good veins." I'm like, "You know what? Are you getting off on it or what?" Okay, so, uh, so,
It's
that's
the
fine.
opposite for me.
You know. And so, I mean, come on, dude. But anyway, when I was counseling, I had to cover up my hands. I had to
Mm,
cover up my arms because I did not want this individual to deter from his healing. And I'll use it like that.
right.
And so, yes,
Right.
and it's a travesty Yes, William, I feel like sewing up some legs, putting a restraint on everything, giving some surgeries to prevent them from producing, but that's not my call. Just like
Right.
a man who is a constant rapist, he says, I need to be in jail. In fact, castrate me because I have no control. But that's a mental issue. That is a
Mm,
mental issue that's deep seated. Sometimes people are just hard to reach. It is what it
mm.
is. You can give them what you need to give them. And then, you know what? Hope that it would stick, you know? And so that's my take on that.
Well,
Mike,
Mike, it's your turn. I
sorry
just
about that, Mike.
before Mike says this, I wanted to say this one thing. Simone Biles, she just had an awesome Olympic run, and her mother tried to
Oh,
cash
that
in on
lady,
that.
I would not
Yes,
give her the phone call. I'm sorry.
and she was a drug addict. But imagine if somebody had tried to castrate her after Simone's older
I
sister.
know.
We
Simone
wouldn't have
would be
got no
here.
Simone Biles. But that's just me. Mike,
But
it's
and
on
she's
you.
trying to get back in the woman's life because she got money now. Now my thing is
Mhm,
this: the motive and the intent to me is
mm,
wrong. Okay.
mhm.
Now the woman's got some money. And I don't want to be judgmental, but it looks like it's on the table for me. Your girl got some money, and I'm like, you know what? I may be sober today, but what's gonna happen tomorrow? What drug dealer do I owe some
Right,
money to? My mind
right.
was gone on that. All of a sudden, you want to come. This girl's got a good life. I would run. I'm sorry.
Mm,
Just because you're a mom and you brought me into this world, you're not a mother. Okay.
mhm.
Some people just wrote in on a seed. I'm just gonna say.
Right. You are what we call a
Ooh,
sperm donor or an egg donor. Yes.
That's all you
You
need.
absolutely.
well,
And
it's Mike's turn. I
yeah, I
forgot.
know. Mike, I
I'm
remember a
sorry,
story.
Mike. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Hey, Mike, I
No, I'm
remember a
enjoying this
story.
conversation. I'm loving this. Perfect.
I think it is too. We had something totally different planned tonight, but
Mm,
this right here is extremely important, folks,
mm,
because there are a lot of sick people out here. And Mike, I believe that a lot of sick people out here, even the sickest, don't realize how sick they are.
nope.
Right,
To them, it it's normal. This is what
right.
they live with. There's a story that I remember seeing one time. It was on YouTube or something like that,
Mm,
and it was a young lady that had five children. One of them passed away, and their father was her dad.
mm,
Was her dad. She wrote a book about it. And on the surface, she seems like she was really okay, Dr. Sims and Ann and Mike. On the
mm.
surface, and I'm thinking, wow, is she really, really okay? And the
Oh,
person who interviewed her said, well, have you forgiven your dad? And
Hmm.
I believe her answer was, yeah, but I don't want to have anything to do with him. I think in that case, forgiveness is overrated. And Dr. Sims, you
mm.
may disagree, or Ann, you may disagree, but I tell you what, I think even forgiveness has its limits. A, her daddy, the only father to her only children, four of them are left, but he raped his own daughter, and and it was a two-family home. The mom knew about it.
Of
Their
course she
mother
did.
knew about
Did
it,
probably encouraged it.
and she stayed with him.
Mm,
Mike, I need your comments right now.
mm,
All right, we've covered so much. I'm going to try to remember everything.
mm,
Let's first, Dr. Sims, thanks for being here today. I love your saying, and I use it constantly: "Hurt people, hurt people."
Ah,
mm,
yeah. Mhm.
That is so
mm,
true. With regard to like abuse in the family, what I've seen in my work and in my lifetime is that there's a vicious cycle that occurs when a young boy watches his father beat his mother.
mm,
Mhm.
And you would think the child would go, I would never do that, but then they
Right.
grow up and they end up being an abusive father or
Exactly.
mm.
abusive
That.
husband or whatever.
Right.
I Going back to the children, when I had cases when I was still working the streets, as far as like being on patrol and such, if I knew there was a family issue where there was any kind of child abuse that was occurring, I would just show up on the doorstep.
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
would recheck those families. I'm allowed to do that. I can go knock and talk anytime I wanted to, and I would
Mhm.
check in on these kids where I knew there might be an issue, but that was borderline, where it wasn't quite bad enough where they had to remove the child from the home, but they still needed to be watched over and observed and such. And then if I saw issues, then I could report and get that child removed from the home. That was easy
Mhm.
for me to do. Before I go, I dug through my archives,
Mhm.
and the gal that I was the young lady who was that I carried out of the buckbrush. Her name was
Mhm.
Elsie Gray. She was
Mm.
72. I misstated her age. I
Wow.
thought she was in her late 80s. And
Wow.
this happened almost exactly 39 years ago. It was August 13th of 1985, and she lived in
Wow.
Claremont. Lived in Claremont and got her car stuck up in Lytle Creek. And I hope this works on camera. So we'll
Mm.
see.
It does.
Oh,
It does. It
wow.
does.
Oh,
It does.
wow. Yeah, we can
That's
see her.
Elsie Gray. Elsie Gray, and
Wow.
I
Wow.
keep I keep an archive of pretty much every case I've ever been on. And
Oh,
the reason I blanked out for a while there is I was digging through my records, still listening to you guys. But that's Elsie. That's the gal that I returned to her family. Um,
Mhm.
wow.
I'm trying to remember everything else that you've covered, as far as like the children and mental illness and such. It's just it's devastating, and it does affect even the officers, and certainly the caseworkers and judges and
Mhm.
everyone involved in it. And it's just,
Mhm.
there's no good that comes of it, because if you have to remove a child from the home, that it, again, affects that child for the rest of its life, and it gets put
Mhm.
into foster care. And a lot of, and Dr. Sims will speak to this, a lot of the foster cares are horrible,
Awful.
absolutely horrible.
I've been in
And
two of them, so I know. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, they're
Mm.
it,
something else.
there's good
Mm.
ones and bad ones. And I'm sure Dr. Sims was hopefully you're, I'm pretty sure you were
Mine was
probably one of
good,
the good
honey.
ones.
They
Yeah,
ate
Mhm.
they're
good. They
probably
looked good. They
spoiled.
smelled good.
She's
Yeah, they
loving on
were.
them all the time.
They
But
were.
Mhm.
there's terrible ones up here in Los Angeles County. The young
Mhm.
child, like, I'm trying to remember the boy's name, but I mean, the the child was actually tortured to death by
Mm.
the
Wow.
Wow.
mother, and the boyfriend. And
Mhm.
that's a case that's only maybe 3 years old, something
Mhm.
like that. LA County.
Mm.
I'm trying to remember the city. Uh,
Mm.
but yeah, and the thing was, the caseworkers ignored it and turned a
Mm.
blind eye to it. And they didn't
That's a
do their
shame.
job. Do your
That's a
damn
shame.
job. Sorry for my mouth, but yeah, do your
Yeah.
damn
Mhm.
job. And that affects other people looking in on it, because they didn't. They could have intervened, but they didn't know what was going on. And
Hmm.
it's
Right.
like, gosh, if I'd seen this, if I would have been there, if I'd heard something about it, I could have stopped this from happening. So it affects people that aren't even intricately involved in the situation,
Hmm.
because
Mm.
they're looking at it from the outside, going, "Damn." So yeah, good topic today. Good
It is.
conversation.
It is a
Thank
great
you all.
topic. I tell you a little personal story.
Mm.
Uh, Going back a while back, I was dating this young lady, and she
Mm.
seemed on the outside
Somebody
very
dated
very
you?
nice, very nice lady. Uh, uh, would you say, Mike?
I said your hair looks nice today.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you can see my hair through my hat. Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate
Right,
it.
right,
Doc,
right, right.
Okay.
Dr. Sims heard me. I don't know if Ann did or not, but Dr. Sims
I
heard me.
didn't hear it. Mm-mm.
Uh-huh. Do you want to repeat it, Mike?
Oh,
Do you
Jesus.
care to repeat yourself, Mike?
It's
I
7 o'clock.
said
He does not. Mm-mm.
I
No.
said I said somebody actually dated you.
See there. Yeah, I tried to help, right?
Okay, okay,
You went out.
Ooh.
okay, Mike. Yeah,
That's
Mike, you
okay.
have and Mike, you have a face for radio, okay? But
Okay.
anyway, moving right along,
It's
moving
true.
right along. Um, and so she called me one day. She said, "Oh boy, I love being around you because, boy, you're joyful. You have a good time. We have a good time. Blah blah blah." And I remember she's telling me that uh, her husband, ex-husband rather, had passed away, and she used to hold this guy at high esteem, only to find out later that it was all a cover up because he was extremely abusive to her, and she ended up shooting him.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, I didn't find that out from her. I found it from somebody else. So, you know what I did? I had to exit stage left. I no,
Uh,
Well, I
no,
mean, you weren't going to abuse her, right?
no, I
Oh,
wasn't.
were you?
You
No,
had
no,
nothing
no.
to
Hey, look,
share.
at this point, if she had to go to an extreme of shooting her husband, then
Right.
I don't know when she was going to snap. Okay.
That wasn't snapping. That was self-defense.
Well, I don't. Well, guess what?
But see, William has a habit of bringing out stuff on people, and so sometimes,
Hey, look.
he told me
I
one
don't.
time, he
Look
said,
here.
"I'm gonna
You can
tell him,
you,
I'm gonna tell him
you can
what you
say whatever
said.
you want.
I
You
don't
can
care." He
say
said, "I'm gonna have to sleep with one eye open with you." I said, "If you would act right, you wouldn't."
hey,
That
look.
part now. But anyway, not that there's anything going on, but that's just what he said.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah.
Tell us
Okay.
more.
Yeah. Yeah. We all know that you packing. All right.
And that's right.
Okay.
You
No,
would be in danger in that
this
circumstance.
is what I'm talking about. You know, I I go out and come home a little late, and oh no, no, I was not going to
Don't
be.
even put me in that little arena.
I
That's in
was
your
not going to
mind.
be a victim
But
in this particular
anyway,
situation. I was not going to be a victim. I wasn't taking any
you are
chances.
so terrible. That's
I
all.
don't care. I don't care.
I think the
I,
woman defended herself and
well,
she
yeah, that's
wasn't a
fine.
danger to anybody. Now look, if she was a serial killer or who
Uh-huh.
killed all of her previous husbands, okay, I could see the
Uh-huh.
alarm bells going off, but
Uh-huh.
he was
Well, no,
basically
see,
abusive
she
towards
never
her.
told me. Women, hold it. This is the problem. She never told me she had shot her husband. She never told
Okay.
me that. She used to talk about this guy like he was the greatest guy on earth, right? Only
Uh,
to find out that the opposite was true. And when I found that out from another source, I said, "Okay, it was nice knowing you." All
well,
right.
you know, black
he,
people
he
don't
was
like
he
to
was the
speak ill of the dead.
he was
I
he
don't care.
was he was the greatest guy on earth.
And I
But
so
the thing
grew out
is,
of that.
he's under
And
he's under
Right.
6 feet
We're
of
not
earth.
trying to be hunted by nobody.
but
He
I
was
grew
cool.
out of that speaking ill of the dead. If they was nasty, don't come talk about he was all of that in a bag of chips and he going to
That's
heaven.
exactly
So if
right.
he was a dog, he was a dog. Tell the truth.
That's right. Hey, tell me up
Right,
front.
right,
Tell me you shot the bastard. All right.
right.
I need to know the truth. Okay.
We will get into that, okay? First, I'm gonna tell you all the good things, and then later on, we'll get to the bad part. But
No. No. Hey, Mike. We do that show every year. Refuse to be a victim. Yep, I was refusing, brother. I
it's
wasn't
so
having it.
true.
Any final
He was
remarks? And let's go around the table. And Dr. Sims and Mike.
Well, guys, I want to wish everybody a happy Labor Day weekend because it's next weekend. I hope you all enjoy it. Make sure you keep it holy, whatever you do, and just enjoy your family. Shout out to my baby AJ.
That's
He's in
right.
school, and oh my gosh, I'm learning. I'm adjusting.
she's
But
traumatized.
yeah.
I'm gonna keep it.
Good.
I'm gonna keep.
I
Hey,
think
look
I've
here,
done quite
Dr.
well.
Sims. I'm gonna keep it holy, long as the hole's on in me. Okay. All right.
Oh
Anyway,
Lord,
move
here we
right
go.
along.
Do you
I'm not
understand
gonna get
what I mean
shot.
by holy? I meant keep it holy as in
Oh.
spiritually holy.
Okay. All right.
He
I
don't
What
got
know
you.
you
how to
think
do
I was
that.
saying?
See, that's why he
He
needs
don't
his
know how to do
Acrite
that.
pills.
And you
Get
can't say
send
that to
send
somebody
his
who's never
Acrite
been
pills.
there. Okay.
Oh, oh,
So
oh.
what kind of
See,
holy do you think I mean? Like
I
somebody
know.
who holds
I
a
knew
I
exactly.
mean
I knew
what?
exactly what you meant. And
Oh, okay.
okay. All right,
Come
Dr.
on,
Sims.
help.
I knew hey, Dr. Sims, come on with your smart remarks. All right. Come on.
I don't have a smart remark. I just want to tell everybody do what is necessary that you have to do for your mental stability,
Absolutely.
regardless, and it's never too late to do so. And so, one of the things is that don't let anybody stop you from your mission and your goals in life because you can allow certain circumstances to stunt your growth emotionally and spiritually. And don't do that. Come watch me on Thursday night, on Thursday evening at 4, Miss Cece's Kitchen deal with some stuff and it seemed like it's working because I'm getting a lot of feedback, and so we're going to be hitting it heavy and hard this coming month, and I'm giving you a call, girl. Okay.
Okay. Looking
And you
forward
too,
to it.
Mike. And wait a minute, William. Don't start with me right now
Mm,
because I said Mike now because I did have you on two on shows. I've got them in my archives. So don't even
Uh,
try it. I'm gonna stop you.
no,
I have
no,
to. Don't try
that,
it.
that's not true, but that's
Don't try
okay.
it.
No, that's fine.
You're sitting here calling me a liar when I've got
I didn't
proof
say
in
that. I'm just saying,
archives.
I didn't call you a liar. I'm just saying
You
it's not
said
true.
that's not true. What do you think that means?
I wasn't on.
William, the educated
No, no.
woman. Stop it.
I opened and closed your shows. You didn't have me on.
okay,
William,
it's Mike's
stop
turn.
it.
Mike, what do
William
you
is
want to
telling a
add?
fib. William is telling a fib. I
I'm
had you
not
on there.
telling
You
a
gave
fib.
me 30 minutes
I
because you
opened
act
and
like you
closed.
couldn't get on my
Did you have
side.
me on for a whole
And you
hour?
talked about financial matters, and you were on 30 minutes later because you act like you couldn't push the button and come on my StreamYard. Don't play with me. I got it.
Yeah, okay, all right, yeah, fine, fine.
Right.
Anyway, like I said, we're out of time. Mike, closing remark.
So I'm in the barrel now. Okay. I agree with well, with pretty much all of you, everything that we've talked about today. But
You mean two
Dr.
weeks in a
Sims,
row? You and I agree?
Lord.
well, you see me sitting over here being quiet. So
Oh, okay.
We're not
That's
talking
weird.
about politics. That's what it
Dear
is.
Jesus.
yeah, we're going to solve the world issues with politics, religion, and abortion. We got it all
Oh my
covered.
God.
But
Uh,
Dr. Sims is exactly right. You have to be whole yourself. You have to be right in your head and right in your physical being. Take care of yourself mentally and physically to be good to other people. So you have to
Mhm.
make sure that you're squared away before you
right.
can actually help others.
That's
So I
exactly
think that's what Dr. Sims is trying to say, and she actually
Exactly.
said it very well.
Exactly.
But
right.
yeah, going back to like for just briefly here, I know we're over time, but like sterilization stuff, common sense says if you could apply common sense, like if you have people that are abusive, you have people that are rapists, and like you say, they're serial baby makers and such. You would think that okay, sterilizing them, or you have somebody that's a sexual abuser or sexual predator, you would think that castrating them stuff, that's common sense, but we have to look at the humanity of things and we have to look at the law and Judge
Right.
Ann is exactly correct that there's certain things the government should be able to do and not do. There was a period of time back here in the U.S. where they would, if you had mental illness, especially the females, they would automatically sterilize you so that you
Mm,
couldn't have babies because you had mental illness.
I
I
didn't know
think
that.
we've evolved as human beings to the point where okay, we can't quite do that. But what we can do is monitor, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Is when I knew there was a problem family or where children were at risk, I would just go by myself on patrol when I had a moment and I was in the area. I'd go check in. And there was times when I went back to Child Protective Services and said, hey, it's not right in this home. You need to get your person in there and
Yeah.
and do what you got to do. So thanks everyone for allowing me to speak, and I sure appreciate being here on the Boomerang. And
Yeah.
it's wonderful to see you,
You
Dr.
too.
Sims. Always a pleasure. And William, good night.
Since you said something so mean, I hope you know that it's
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah. Same here, Mike. I'll see you on Thursday. I will get
Yeah,
you
good
on
night,
Thursday.
William.
Okay. When we have more time. But anyway, on a serious note, though, yeah, mental illness is something that needs to be addressed. I think that if our government will get their heads out of their
Yeah, good luck
back,
on that
Bye-bye.
one. Good
out of their
luck.
pack,
Don't
then
get me started on
put
them.
more, they will put more emphasis on this because it is an epidemic, folks, in this country.
It
It is
is.
definitely an epidemic in this country. And since we can't sterilize them, since we can't sew their legs together, anything like that, then I think what needs to happen, and perhaps as a judge, you could order them into some serious counseling before they can get their children back or before they can have other children. And then it needs to be monitored before they can, I don't know. But
Those
anyway,
You
something
can
like
people,
tell
that.
people that they can and
they are
cannot have
far
sex.
gone. They don't care. Those type of people just don't care. Now, if they ask them, this last statement, if they ask to be sterilized, I will oblige them.
Absolutely.
Except they ask for it, go
Can
ahead
I,
and get it done.
can
Absolutely.
I throw in one more thing? I know
Go
we're
ahead,
way
Mike.
over time, but again, I dealt with child abuse and such, and men. I'm gonna focus on men here because they're the major offenders. But men that abuse children or that are pedophiles, I don't think there's this is my personal opinion. I don't think there's a level of counseling that would help them
Mm.
because they're wired in a certain way. And let me
Exactly.
explain by going, okay, William's a guy, I'm a guy, I'm attracted to females. I'm assuming that William's attracted to females. We are wired that way. And when you get somebody that's a pedophile, they are wired that way to like young
They're
girls, boys, whatever.
Ooh.
demonically possessed.
I don't think there's a, I don't, and Dr. Sims,
They're
I hope you
possessed.
back me up on this. And if I'm
I
wrong,
do
you
back
say
you up.
so.
They're possessed.
But they do not have the control, and they are wired
Mm.
that way. And there's nothing you can do or say to them that's going to change their mindset any more than you can say, William, you know what? You should like men.
What? You can forget that, brother.
Well, and thank,
Well,
now,
that's what they're
William,
teaching
William,
now. That's
William
what
just
they're
proved
telling
my
us now.
point because he's wired a certain way, and for
Yeah.
me to demand that he rewire his brain to like men, it's not
Mm.
going to happen.
It
And
ain't
that's
gonna
my
happen.
personal feeling with pedophiles is like there's nothing you can do to say to change them. They're
Mhm.
wired that way, and they need to be removed or monitored or whatever needs to take place to make sure that they are not in a position where they can harm others.
And
So
becoming a
and
priest don't make you change either, because that's
Oh
what
it
no.
should,
Right.
Oh well.
It
No.
that's
really
an
is.
excuse.
It really is. Sin, any sin, whether we're talking about pedophilia,
Yes,
alcoholism, murder, all of that is spiritual insanity.
exactly.
It's
It
um,
sure is.
true as well.
My
the
last
Bible.
statement here is right there in San Bernardino. Mike, you may even know about this case. There was a Catholic priest there, and I had to go by his office because he wanted to buy a piece of equipment, and it seemed like one of the nicest guys in the world, you know. And then
They
come
are.
find out, picked up the newspaper, and he was charged and convicted of being a pedophile,
Mm,
molesting boys.
mm,
So
Ain't nothing
there
you
you
can
have it.
do.
And a lot of them find their ways to the pulpit, Dr. Sims and
Oh,
Ann and
don't get
Mike.
me started on that,
Okay,
please.
no,
Okay, please don't
we're
do
gonna pick
that.
this up again. We're gonna pick
mm.
this up again, okay? But great
Okay.
show, guys, and I think it's necessary for us to do more shows like this because, like I said before, mental health, mental illness especially is an epidemic. Hey guys, have a great evening. I've got to